In this video here, I'm gonna show you how anyone can paint a simple cloud with some simple directions from me. This is a must-see if you're a brand new painter. Here we go. When it comes to making an easy, simple to do, and realistic cloud, you gotta have the right supplies, which I did you a favor and put it down in the video description below. If you click on any of those links, that does help me out, so thank you. Now, we wanna start with making sure you have the right paint to make a cloud. For this lesson here, we're gonna use a firm paint from Winsor Newton, that is titanium white. Now, this is actually too firm of a paint for clouds, which is probably why some of you struggle. We actually wanna give it some slight flexibility or just have it slightly firm. And to do that, I'm gonna introduce a medium into it, which is Gamblin solvent-free gel, just a little bit. Now, if you don't have Gamblin solvent-free gel, you can use any clear medium. Heck, you can even use liquid white or liquid clear, or if you're in a pinch, thinner will do. Now you just need to mix your paint thoroughly so that it's still firm, but has some slight flexibility. How will you know? Well, your paintbrush should go through your paint easily, but still hold a lot of the paint strokes on the mixing palette. When you have that, you've got a nice paint that'll work perfectly for a cloud. Now, I want you to take your fan brush and I want you to load it up on both sides. Yes, you want a lot of paint. Load it up on both sides, and for the last few strokes, take it through the paint and wiggle the paintbrush through. What this is going to do is it ensures that you kind of move the paint from on the back end of the bristles towards the front, allowing you to paint with more paint. Very simple and easy technique to do. Now, when you're ready to put a cloud on your canvas, you have to decide where it goes. Don't overthink it, kind of be loose and free. Trust me, it'll help you for the rest of the lesson here. Now, when you're actually ready to paint your cloud on your canvas, I want you to take your fan brush and I want you to hold it directly straight at the canvas and approach where you're going to put it. Then, before you touch your canvas, I want you to turn it 90 degrees perpendicular to your canvas. This is going to expose the actual corner of the paintbrush, which is we're gonna do a lot of our painting with, and gives us more control while creating some awesome effects as we go through. More on that in just a moment. Now, from here, I want you to either dip your elbow or wrist down, or I want you to dip your elbow and wrist up. This will give you different effects for your cloud. Play around with it and you discover them. For this tutorial, I'm just gonna dip my down, which is going to expose the back end of the fan brush a little bit more, allowing me to push, creating awesome little crowns. Why don't you do that with me so that way we can do it all together? Now, with my loaded up fan brush, all I have to do is really just mimic whisking an egg or pancake batter with my wrist and hands and a little bit of your forearm. Your elbow and shoulder and body is more of a stabilizing mechanic here, just so you can keep the correct motion. And you want to make sure that the fan brush constantly keeps moving. As we approach our canvas with the correct technique, I want you to touch the canvas with just the corner of the brush and just gingerly start whisking. You can go up, down, left, right. You can make your cloud as thin or as thick as you want, and you can make whatever shape you want. All you need to be concerned with is the outer edge of a cloud, because we're gonna build the body in just a second. I recommend start with a thinner section and work out to a bigger bloom and cloud fluffiness, if you will. This will give you a better visualization as you go. The biggest mistake people make is they generally just start doing big circles and they can't visualize it. If you start small with some whisking and you go up, down, left, and right, you can generally figure out a shape as you go through and then take it off to the end of the canvas there. Allow me to reiterate, you're only worried about making the outside edge of your cloud. We do not care about what happens below that outside edge or the body. We're gonna do that in just a moment. Think about the outside edge only, and while we're here, only do one cloud at a time. It's a huge beginner mistake when people try to do 4, 5, 6, 7 clouds at a time. One cloud, we're gonna nail it and then move on to the next one. Now, as you paint your cloud with your fan brush, the most common question I always get asked is, Wild, when I take my white paint and paint on a blue background to paint my cloud becomes dull, dingy, and contaminated because of the blue that gets on the paintbrush. Extremely common, and that happens, so don't worry about it. What you want to do is get yourself a shop towel and wipe off your fan brush in between loading of it, or for when you want to do multiple sections of highlights or whatever you're going through. Or if you simply run out of paint, which will be very common for brand new painters because you're just gonna go, because you don't know what you're doing, it's okay. Once you go, you know what? Take that fan brush, wipe it off completely. Heck, don't be afraid to pinch the paint off, go back to your mixing palette and reload. It's perfectly fine. In fact, I actually recommend you do that every time you need. Also, don't be afraid to paint with both corners of your fan brush. Just simply flip it over and continue the whisking motion to finish off your cloud. Now with a 1 or 2 inch brush, we're going to anchor that cloud into the reality of that landscape. What I want you to do, and I'm gonna illustrate on my 2 inch brush here, is I want you to approach your cloud and then tip the handle up. What that does is it exposes just these top bristles here. That's all we're gonna use. And yes, you can do that on a 1 inch brush too, just tip it up, and now we're just using these bristles here. This allows you to have more control. What we're going to do is only touch the bottom of the cloud, but we're gonna work our way through the entire cloud by doing small circles here. And I want you to start light. When you do these small circles, you're taking the bottom of the cloud and really anchoring it into the reality of this landscape that you're developing here. It's gonna make it look like it's actually sitting perfectly within this landscape. Now, the technique I want you to start with is small circles and work from there. The longer you sit and you hypnotize or you blend the cloud in and make it velvet smooth, the more it's gonna get pushed back further and further into that landscape. So remember that for your perspective of depth that you may be trying to get. That's a little more intense. We'll talk about that at another lesson plan. Just simply lightly hypnotize the cloud as you go through. If you want to push it back or you want more transparent, all you need to do is just push harder on the canvas and do slightly bigger circles with more pressure. Now, during this entire step, you do not touch the top of the cloud. That is a no touch zone. Now clean off your 1 or 2 inch brush completely with a blue shop towel. And now we get to build the body. I like to do full cross strokes across my entire cloud, working from the top of the cloud, which I like to call the crowns, and pulling it down towards the bottom of my cloud. What this does is it builds body and character and shape into your cloud effortlessly. There we go. Oh my gosh, I got it. Without having to do too much work. I should have just said that. So just gingerly lay your paintbrush, your 2 inch brush, if you can, 1 inch will work as well, at a 45-degree angle. And what that does is it exposes these outside bristles here, and it allows you to have an extremely light touch. Lay it at that 45 or 65 if you're a mathematician, and gingerly pull down. The softest stroke you've ever done. Go diagonally across your entire cloud. When you get to one side, I want you to flip the brush over and come down across this way, basically making X's all the way through it. This is going to pull that paint down into the body of your cloud, really giving it an awesome shape. Now, if your paintbrush was covered in white paint from the first time you went across and you got a little bit of white outside and above or below your cloud, that's fine. The very last step will clean it up, but if there's a big glob, feel free to just wipe it off and blend it in gingerly with a smaller brush. Since we pulled some of that paint down towards the bottom of our cloud, I want to re-anchor it and give it some more shape. I'm going to take my 2 inch brush and lay it at that same 45 or 65 degree and go across horizontally with some very long and extremely soft X strokes. This again is just going to anchor that cloud in there that may have been re-unanchored, if you will, by that extra heavy paint. This will just give it that little extra blend motion at the bottom, and it's going to look beautiful. Now let's give our cloud a little bit of motion by making it look like wind is moving through it or just kissing it ever so slightly. I want you to take your 2 inch brush, and yes, a 2 inch brush is way easier here, and lay it at that same 45 or 65 degree angle, about an inch below where your cloud is cemented in your landscape. And I want you to kind of do a soft J/check mark motion all the way through the cloud. And I do mean from the bottom of the cloud past the top of the cloud. This is going to give you a full range of motion. And this is the slightest touch you've ever done in your life. you simply just want to work through it using all of the bristles that you possibly have on your paintbrush and just go up. You can go to the left or you can go to the right, and you can slant it more one way or more another way. It's your cloud. If you're right-handed, you're gonna have an easier time starting from the bottom left and going up to the top right. And if you're left-handed, it's the opposite, bottom right to top left. But feel free to mix it up. It's your environment, but for the sake of realism, generally wind goes all one way or the other. So let's just go to the right for this one here. At this point here, your cloud should really start to take extreme shape. In fact, it's pretty much done. We just have to work out the extra paint strokes. Depending if your paintbrush was heavy-handed with paint on the bristles and more paint got below the cloud, I recommend doing those long X strokes again, just so that it blends into the background of your sky. And now we just have to do parallel strokes across your entire cloud. In fact, I like doing it pretty much across my entire canvas. Whatever easier for you, right to left or left to right, start from what feels comfortable and just gingerly work your way across the cloud. I personally like to work from the bottom of the cloud all the way up through the top to work out all the strokes. And this is gonna make all the strokes parallel across the canvas. So that way it doesn't look like there's too much chaos, I guess, going on in your cloud. It's gonna make it look like it's a natural, realistic cloud. Bravo, you just easily created a cloud in oil paint. Now you might be looking at yours and going, hey, yeah, that looks really good, but it could be better. If you want to take the next step to really accentuate your cloud to make it look like it has highlight, shadow, more wind, or sunlight is kissing or piercing through parts of your cloud, that's easily something you can do, and we'll do it right now. All you need to do is take your fan brush that needs to be clean and load up the corner of the fan brush with the same paint mixture that we used for our cloud. And wherever you think sunlight or wind would be kissing into your cloud is where I want you to add some extra highlight. Now, please pay attention to where the light source is, because light obviously creates a highlight. So think about that. And they're not generally always on top of the cloud. Sometimes they can be underneath and in different parts of the body of the cloud. If you really want to make things easier for you, just make them on top. Nobody's gonna care. As you get more advanced, you can start looking at realistic clouds and mimicking how sunlight hits them. But all you need to do is have the lightest touch again with a fully loaded fan brush on just that corner and just whisk in ever so lightly where you think a highlight would be. Don't go overboard here, because again, we're trying to make it realistic, and just add those simple little highlights. Now, follow the same steps. Blend in just slightly the bottom of the highlight, probably using a smaller brush or a clean fan brush here, and then do some X strokes through it to create it back into the body, giving it more of a natural shape that builds that body. Then blend out the bottom if you need to. If you want heavy-handed, give it a nice lift with a 1 or 2 inch brush, and then blend out your paint strokes, making it look natural into your landscape. This is the easiest way to start painting a cloud and nailing them right off the bat. I teach this technique to people that have never held a paintbrush in their life and they nail a cloud. You can do it too. Just take your time and do one cloud at a time. When you nail it, and then if you want to add highlights after that, move on to your next cloud. Think about how they need to be displayed in your landscape. Don't be afraid to use a reference photo. And before you know it, you're going to be a cloud master. I know this video is going to help you out, and you can help me out by going down below and hitting that like and subscribe, and leave me a comment and let me know, what do you need help with next? Hey, do you want help with mountains, trees, landscape, water? That's your job to leave me a comment down below. And while you're down there, you know what? I would love it if you can follow me on my social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram, because I love seeing the art you guys pump out. It's a beautiful day outside. I think I'm going to go look at some clouds. I'll check you all later. Take care. And of course, peace.